Hey everyone, Andrew the Avatar here, and today we're going to make a rage beat for It's Okay to Cry's Gwen Stacy 4EVER. If you haven't heard this project, it's a really awesome project, and I think it does a really great job of showing a lot of the possibilities for like what rage type beats can be, because every rage type beat that I've ever heard, and probably every rage type beat that you've ever heard, kind of sounds like Miss the Rage, like almost exactly, but this project really takes that sound and goes from like the more traditional rage type beat and basically expands on that sound and creates a lot of new possibilities with it. So I'm really excited to make this beat today using some of the same kinds of sounds that It's Okay to Cry and his producer Cactus put throughout this whole project. First off, I want to thank everybody for 500 subs on the channel here. It means the world to me, and every single sub through the end of the year is helping contribute to TeamSeas to pull 30 million pounds of garbage out of the ocean. So I donated $500 right when we hit 500 subs, and I'm really excited to hit 1,000, and basically any sub until the end of the year up to 1,000 is going to equal $1 and 1 pound of garbage out of the ocean. So thank you so much for subscribing. Also, if you're already subscribed, liking this video can help just as much by spreading this video out to more people. That way we can get more subscribers and pull more pounds of garbage out of the ocean. Thank you for your contribution. Anyways, it's time to rage. Let's dive in.
Don't play.
So I started off the beat drums first, looking for a great sound from Geology's Only Drums kit, and if you listen to the song Acid Reflex off Gwen Stacy 4EVER, you'll notice that Cactus actually used two different 808 sounds, so like one of the 808s is hitting sometimes and the other 808 is hitting on some of the notes, and I wanted to get a similar effect here, so I actually ended up using two different 808s. Also, an interesting fact about Geology's Only Drums kit is that I actually gave it that name, so go show the homie some love and pick up his Only Drums kit. It's fire.
One eternity later.
So after finally picking the 808 samples, I needed to get the key and BPM right. So the key of this track is C# major and the BPM is 160. Now before we start programming our pattern, we need to make sure that our sampler settings are right. So first things first, the 808's got to be boosted. But believe it or not, a little bit actually goes a long way here. What's really important is having this envelope setting right. It's just going to give us a lot more control of the expression of the 808 in the piano roll. It should look just like this. So I know this 808 pattern looks kind of complex, but all it really is the root note of the scale and the fifth note in the scale, and then we're just doing some pitch slides and stutter effects. But really this is only half the magic, because we are going to move half these notes to another 808. Next, I cloned this pattern so that way we could flesh out the drums some more. So basically what I did was just grab the 808 notes that I thought would sound nicer with a smoother 808, and I also have that first note at the beginning, which I'm just going to delete once I copy it over, but it's just there to make it easier to copy and paste. So I cut those notes and put them on a different 808 sound, and now we have this cool double 808 sound. I also ended up swapping the 808 sample with this one from the Only Drums kit. Next, I started programming a two-step hi-hat pattern. Then I just added in some rests and rolls with a little bit of trial and error. Finally, the last little bit of sauce was to use Alt plus R to slightly randomize the pan and velocity. Next, I programmed in a ride cymbal on every half beat, a couple tasteful perks, and an occasional open hat. Anything more complex than this will be programmed directly into the playlist during arrangement. Next, I opened up Morphine and started auditioning sounds for the main lead. Don't underestimate this plugin, there's some really amazing sounds in this thing. Next, I composed chords, a melody, a counter. What the f? Damn it. So as you can see, my FL Studio crashed after laying down that first draft of the melody, but honestly you have to look for the positive in these things, and this was kind of a blessing in disguise. That initial melody honestly sounded a little too bright for the vibe we're going for, and this is as good of a time as any to talk about music theory. If you aren't familiar with this diagram right here, this is the circle of fifths, and you can use it to summon it. You can use it to make major and minor scales fit together in your composition. Honestly, this concept could be a whole other tutorial, but using scale helpers in FL Studio, playing in key is really simple, and I want to show you guys the practical application of it for this beat here. So our 808 pattern was in the key of C# major, and if you look at the inside ring of the circle of fifths, you'll see that C# major is the exact same as B flat minor. This means that we can write our chords and melody using B flat minor as the root and get a darker sound while still keeping everything in key. Another one of my favorite ways to use the circle of fifths is to make loops that were originally in different keys play in the same key, but that's a story for another day. So starting our melodies from scratch again inside our project, I grabbed the Digital Life preset from Morphine and just slammed the drive knob. So using the circle of fifths we were just talking about, I set the scale to A# minor, aka B flat minor. So this is the main lead melody for this track. I tried to compose it pretty similar to a metal guitar riff, and you can see that it has really a lot of movement in it, which especially with an 808 like this would make it hard for some artists to do vocals on it, but since this is a It's Okay to Cry type beat. It works pretty well because he has a kind of more aggressive and like staccato type vocal delivery. So it works here, and basically we're just playing around the root note. You can see that the second two measures are basically the exact same melody. I just pitched up some of the notes and put in that little stutter near the end. Next, using another patch inside Morphine, I made this simple chord progression, and these are basically just power chords. Don't overthink it, just make some power chords, and it's buried in the mix. Really, we use this more to create the ARPs that we'll talk about next. Also, for some reason, I waited until this point to add in a kick, but just boost knob it out of it, and yeah, it'll smack. Next, I cloned the chords twice and pulled up different patches in Morphine for each of those clones, and then used Alt+A to set up an arpeggio on each of those clones, and basically just made each of them a little bit different. I panned one about 30 degrees to the left and the other one about 30 degrees to the right, and that gives us more layers to work with. Next, I took that whole pattern and split by channel. Then I started arranging the beginning of the beat using our initial 808 pattern before we split the 808 onto two different sounds, the producer tags, and a couple extra crashes and FX from Geology's Only Drums kit. So this is probably my favorite sound in this entire track. It's just a couple crashes in an 808 that have been reversed to create a lot of tension before the important drops. From here, it's basically just a chorus verse chorus structure with nothing more complex than bringing in a few extra crashes and sound effects. So I wanted to do a kind of funky breakdown before the last chorus, and I found this loop and just stretched it to match the BPM of the song and changed the key from C to C sharp major. After that section of the breakdown, I rendered our main ARP down to audio and cloned it, pitched one version up an octave, pitched one version down an octave, and then reversed both of them. To make the switch up more pronounced during the breakdown, I want to put halftime on the master track. Wait, what is this? Come on! Yeah, so for some reason this track just had all the technical difficulties going on all at once. And the reason that halftime wouldn't open is because I had recently cleared every single icon off of my desktop, and somehow in that process I had halftime's VST file on the desktop and it got deleted. And I couldn't even figure out how to re-download it from their site, so I ended up actually having to buy this plugin all over again. If you want to help me feel better about spending all that money, just make sure that you like this video and that you're also subscribed to the channel. Also, if you really want to support the channel, head over to andrewtheavatar.com and consider picking up one of my kits. So we finally got halftime up and running again, and now I can show you guys why I love this plugin so much. I mean, just check out what it does to this breakdown. Next, we just automated the halftime mix knob for the breakdown and did a similar effect at the end of the track as well. The only other automations I did on this track were to automate an instance of Love Filter and an instance of Camel Crusher, and just using these kind of effects tastefully can really help with adding some more emotion and movement into your track, so I highly recommend applying those kind of effects when you're arranging. Also, I'm not even joking when I say that this track is hardly mixed at all. All I really did is set levels. I filtered out some of the low frequencies from anything that's not supposed to be a bass sound just to make more room for the bass to cut through the mix, and that's really the majority of the mix. Good sound selection, good composition, and good arrangement will always make mixing a whole lot easier. I also sent some of the signal from a number of the sounds to a instance of Valhalla Supermassive. This is a free reverb and one of my absolute favorite reverbs, and I love the Slaw Saucer preset, so that's just how we got some more space into the mix. And that, my friends, is basically how you make a rage beat for It's Okay to Cry's Gwen Stacy 4EVER. Thank you again, I'll see you next time.
Melodies.